I'm Paula Williams from ABCI, and welcome to Marketing Monday. We answer a reader's question every Monday about some sales or marketing topic, and this week's question is from Samantha. And Samantha wrote us an email, and she said, we just found out that we have approval to go to the NBAA Regional in Morristown, New Jersey in September. This will be one of my first aviation shows. What are some of the things I should do to prepare to get the best return on investment? Thank you, Samantha, for your question. Really appreciate it. And for asking us a question, of course, we will send you our social media guide for aviation professionals. And there is some stuff in here that is relevant to trade shows. How to use hashtags and other things to help you during the trade show. But to back up and kind of look at the higher level view here, since you are new to aviation trade shows, just wanted to let you know a few of the things that might be a little bit unusual or different from what you're used to. One is that aviation trade shows tend to be a little bit more formal than in a lot of other industries and things like that, especially if you're used to the tech industry like I was. Coming to an aviation show, you might find that people are dressed a lot more formally. You might find that people put a lot into these trade shows. A lot of the aircraft manufacturers, fuel companies, and other kinds of folks will put a lot of money into their displays and into a lot of things. There's a lot of shiny objects, a lot of distracting things going on. Now, a regional is not quite as difficult to get the attention of people walking by as is, maybe the NBAA annual forum. But some things I would like to have you do. The first thing is download our trade show checklist. Now, this is something that you can find on our website, or you can just Google Aviation Trade Show Checklist and it will come up. This has activities that you should do at different points in your planning. So, 90 days before, 60 days before, 30 days before, and it gives you kind of a nice way to just check those off and make sure that you've at least considered all of those things. You may not want to do all of them, especially if it's your first show, but if you at least consider them, you'll be miles ahead of people who are maybe even trade show veterans in the aviation industry. So some of the things that are on that list that I'd recommend that you take a look at 90 days before more than 90 days before. It's a great time to start planning your invitations. How are you going to get people to your booth? Are you going to have some kind of an activity like a trivia quiz or product demos or something like that? What is their reason for getting to your booth? You want to give people an excuse for spending their time with you at the trade show. And if you want to get them to make appointments with you, you need to give them a reason to do that. So you also want to look through the guidelines that NBAA will send you. They actually do a pretty nice job of outlining the shows and what's expected and things like that, and all of the things that you get with your booth rental. So some of the things that you might get are press room access. You might be able to deliver a press briefing, so you want to have a press release ready to go. You may be able to do speaking opportunities. They do they do a call for papers every once in a while, and I'm not sure when the date is for the New Jersey Regional, but if that is not passed, you may want to get someone from your organization to do an education session at that show. That's a great way to get a nice captive audience for an hour, and it does have to be something that your folks are really well versed in, that everybody's interested in learning about. So that can't be a pitch fest, it has to be educational, but it's a great opportunity to get some visibility. Now, 60 days before the show, you're going to want to already start on your follow-up sequence. So, if you have an email system, you want to set up the emails that'll go out. And the reason you want to do this now is because when you come back from the show, number one, you want things to happen really quickly, and number two, you're going to be really tired and you're going to have a lot of work to do from having been out of the office for a while. So if you start setting those things up now, you're going to get busier as the show approaches, and if you've got all that stuff ready to go, you're a lot more likely to get things done. Get materials printed. That way you don't end up paying expedite fees and expedited shipping and other kinds of things if you get your printed materials and your supplies early. So go through the checklist, make sure you got everything you need. 30 days before, you want to prepare an FAQ about your products and services and the things that people are going to be asking you the most often. And you want to go through that FAQ with everybody who's going to be manning your booth. So if that's your regular employees, that's great. If you're hiring people especially for this, you need some additional people, or you're hiring booth talent, you want to make sure that you have a really concise, well-written FAQ so that people aren't completely clueless, because that really represents you badly when somebody comes to your booth and asks someone a question about some of your most popular products or services, or the most basic questions, and people don't have the answers. That happens more often than you would think. So FAQ and training and role-playing for your booth personnel, that's very important. And also you'll want to start your social media about that time. Do some social media countdowns for your trade show. So last thing is follow-up. Now this is where you make that return on investment after a trade show. Most people don't do nearly enough follow-up. So, if you're sending a thank you note, or if you are making a phone call, that is not enough. You need to do many, many, many things. Usually a 6-week follow-up process is a minimum that you want to do. You spent a lot of money for those contacts that you've gotten from the trade show. Now you want to make it really worthwhile for you. So thank you, Samantha, for your question. Your book is on the way to you in the mail, and yeah, you may want to use some of the things from the book using social media during the trade show. All right, so I also have a correction from last week's episode of Marketing Monday. Last week, of course, was Michael, who asked the question about getting a negative review that really messed up their average number of stars on a review system. I think it was Facebook that he had the reviews on. And I mentioned that you should get more reviews. You should do what you can to encourage people to make reviews on your Facebook so that average goes up. You can't get a bad review removed, but as long as it's a very small percentage of the people that have done business with your company and that have left reviews, then of course that's not going to hurt you as badly as if you only have 2 reviews and one of them is a 1-star review, right? Okay. John Schval pointed out very correctly that a lot of the review sites, especially Yelp and Google, really frown on soliciting reviews, especially on compensating people in any way for making reviews. So the dicey part is where you actually reward people for leaving a review. Some of the sites really frown on that and may even penalize you for that, or may discontinue your account. So there's lots of bad things that can happen for that. I think it's perfectly fine to ask people for feedback and comments, and ask people for reviews, and it is even okay, I think, especially if it's a podcast or a book that they're reviewing, to ask people to to offer some kind of compensation for that. Have a drawing for an Amazon card or something like that for people who leave a review or a comment. You're just encouraging participation. You're not necessarily influencing what they say or whether it's positive or negative. So I think that's perfectly fine. But do read the terms of service for whatever site you're using, and make sure that you're within those terms of service, and well within those terms of service. Don't try to thread the needle on that, because it will cause you problems in the future. So thank you for joining us for Marketing Monday, and we will see you next week.